We've talked about walking in very generic terms, but part of what is so interesting about walking is the hyper-specificity to each individual. It's like the way they sign their name. It's very, very idiosyncratic. So much of animation is observing and being able to act through drawing. You act more proficiently and in a more informed and dynamic way if you are observant of people. Okay, so dialogue. File, new. We want a document that's 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. Okay, background, opacity, 0. We're going to name it transparent. Okay. I have the animation window open, okay? Window, timeline, it's open, visible. Create video timeline, create video timeline, and then I'm going to click on this weird little rectangular ellipsis thing there, and then that takes me to what I want. And I'm going to change the frame rate. I'm going to change it so that these images are going to play at 0.2 frames in the preview. Okay, so if you look at the Preston Blair book, he has a few charts which map out the mouth shapes that we make as we speak. In other words, different sounds require our mouths. So in other words, as we produce different sounds, our mouths look slightly different. Okay? And Preston Blair has a fairly useful chart of how these things break down. And when you look at old limited animation cartoons that were made with very, very little money, so much of the emphasis is on sound synchronization. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a chart that is specific to character in a given image. So let's just create our character, our background, okay? Okay, new folder, we're going to call this background. Okay, so on one layer, let's just have a nice sort of neutral color. Neutral but sort of warm. Okay, and then let's put something complementary on top. Nice blue. Okay. So I'm adjusting the size of my pen on my Wacom. I'm going to move it up from 3 pixels to, let's say, 6. I'd like to make a slightly bigger mark right now. Okay, so we're just going to create weird little character here. Okay, nice and loose. And he's going to have goofy little hair and little ears. Okay. So let's create, just for fun, eyes that move on independent layers. Okay, we're going to fill that eyes folder with some layers. Just a couple. Okay, this is the first one. And we'll just do a couple of, well, we'll just do a wink, because a wink will give us also individual expressions we can isolate. Okay. Second drawing in the eye folder. Let me make the drawing underneath less opaque so you can see what I'm doing on top. Okay. Close up those shapes a little bit better. Make the pupil a little bigger. Make the pupil a little bigger. Okay, and let's do. We'll do the eyes closed here. We'll make this one less opaque. And now we can actually just reverse that flow. You see that? Okay, so now the background, all this face, the face and the nose, the ears, the hair, that's all in the background. But now the eyes are operating on an independent layer. You see that? Okay, get rid of that. First frame. Let's save this while we're at it. Photoshop dialogue is what we'll call this. Okay, so now let's get into unique mouth shapes. I'm going to create a folder, call it mouth shapes. You know, background is what I created, is what I called this first folder. Let's call it character. All right, and I'm going to pull the background color out. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so let's just make a few mouth shapes. We're going to say hello, for which we'll require basically, we're going to do it in within three unique shapes, okay? So we're going to say hello. Preston Blair, actually, if you look in the book, he has 4 unique shapes. We're going to do it in 2. So let's fill up the mouth shapes folder with 3 layers. Layer 1 is going to be our H. Okay, and if you're ever wondering, you can even just look in the mirror as you're speaking, touch your mouth and see what sort of shape. The problem with relying too much on these books is you become overly reliant on stock expressions, which is not a good habit. I mean, it's good to have these things in the beginning, and it's good to have these things to refer to, but eventually you want to break free of these things. It's like what Bruce Lee says about Kung Fu. It's all about starting it from a point of ignorance, acquiring skill, and the third state is the dissolution of skill. And Picasso sort of said a similar thing. He said by the end of his life, he had gone back to trying to draw like a child. He was actively unlearning everything he had learned over the course of his life. It's okay. What are we doing? Okay, let me just color this in.
I just want some peanut butter sandwich, and I was trying to set him up with something.
Okay. So I'm going to get rid of that on the first one. Okay. But on this, we're going to have the mouth, okay? H, and then let's get into our E. Check, check. Keep it down, please. All right. So, okay. And we'll give a little indication of the bottom teeth. Okay. I'm just going to color that really quickly. Okay. H E. Let's do our L. I want to make sure that the line doesn't deviate too much, so I'm going to return to the original drawing to reference the upper lip in this third one, okay? So this is going to be our L drawing. So let's bring the opacity of layer 7 down, layer 9, sorry, let me just erase a couple little goof ups there. So this is our L mouth shape. Okay. And O. O is a really fun one. Because O is just a big, it looks kind of like an O. Nice big elongated form. Teeth won't be visible, But maybe we'll give a little indication of his tongue at the bottom here. There we go. Okay, so let's get over here. Turn off the visibility of that layer. I don't want the spongy brush. I'm going to click on my Wacom pen. Let's get a different brush. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do for right now. Okay. So the idea, and we'll just have this mouth be his default mouth shape. Oh, we don't want that one in every single. Hello. And then let's have him return to a different eye shape too. That's kind of goofy. Okay, let's get rid of that one. Delete that frame. Okay. Hello. Hello.